Welcome to this month's edition of the Mug Rug of the Month Club. I'm Jerry Ford, and I will be happy to send you this design for free if you just send me an email request at waltzquilt@yahoo.com. If you want to become a member of our Mug Rug of the Month Club, and that way I can send you each month's submission by email, again, send me an email request at waltzquilt@yahoo.com, and I'll be happy to share this with you. This is a cute little applique mug rug. It can be done in a 5x7 or larger hoop. It features a pocket so that you can put in a cookie or a lollipop or some other treat or a napkin, whatever, to serve with your hot steaming mug of coffee, tea, whatever. And it makes a wonderful gift. All right, let's talk about the supplies. So the first thing you're going to need is your 5x7 hoop. And you can use any kind of stabilizer you like. I'm using a tearaway, but you can also use a no-show mesh or any type of cutaway. I prefer tearaway because it's just easier to remove. Okay, you're going to need, for the fabrics, background fabric, you're going to need light blue or a sky type fabric. You're going to need a 2" by 5.5" rectangle for fabric for grass. You're going to need a 1.5 by 4" piece, 4.5" piece for a couple of the leaves. You're also going to need another little piece of 1.5 by 2" for another leaf. You're going to need 2" by 2" pieces for the tulips. I'm using green, pink, and yellow, about 2 inches by 2 inches. Okay, you're going to need a 1.5 by 1.5" piece of light gray fabric, and this is a little lighter on one side than the other. I'm going to use the light side, but you only need a tiny bit. You're also going to need a 1.5 by 1.5" piece of iridescent mylar for the wings. These are the wings of the bee. You can use black tooling, dark tooling, white tooling, whatever you like. And you only need a 1.5 by 1.5" piece. I'm out of tooling, so I found this little piece of black lace, and that'll be fine. I'll just use this light area. Okay, for the right side background, you're going to need another piece of light blue fabric, 3.5 by 6 inches. You're going to, for the pocket on the right, you're going to need a piece of white fabric or whatever color you like, doesn't matter, which is 3.5 by 7 inches, and I folded in half in order to make the pocket. Okay, I need a piece of lace about 3.5 inches, and I'm going to use that just to embellish the pocket, and that's really, I'm going to put that aside because that's really one of the first things I'm going to do. You're going to need 2 pieces of 6 inches by 9" pieces of fabric to do the backing. You're going to need about a 6 by 8 piece of batting. You're going to need the following thread colors. You're going to need white, leaf green, grass green, yellow, red, and pink to match the tulips. You're going to need black and harvest gold for the bee, and gray for the wings. It wouldn't hurt to have just an Elmer's washable school glue stick, and I'll show you. That's going to help keep your fabric adhered. And if you're going to use the glue, then you might want to have a little clover iron that's heated up just to fit inside of the applique pieces to bind it down. You do not have to do your applique pieces with fusible webbing. And of course, it's always helpful to have a curved pair of embroidery scissors to help trim the applique pieces. Okay, and of course you're going to need a jump stick with the file, and the file is called April 2024, loaded on your machine, and now we're ready to sew. So let's go to the machine. Okay, to prepare the pocket, I have taken my 3.5" by 7" piece, folded it in half, and I'm going to top stitch this lace. And you have to decide, do you want the lace on the front or on the back? It doesn't really matter. The choice is yours. I think I like it with Well, I'll decide because I can always turn it over, right? So I'm going to just simply stitch along the edge with a regular sewing machine, just along the edge of my fabric. Go straight across with about 2.5 stitch length. You don't have to back tack. I think I will put a double layer just to right at the edge, a double layer of stitching right at the edge just to make it lay a little flatter. There. And just trim the edges. Okay, and you just have to decide what do you want to be the front of the pocket. The choice is up to you. This one's got a double layer of stitching, and this one's got the lace on the front. I think I like this side better. It looks a little more finished. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside until we're ready to embroider on that pocket. All right, now let's go to the embroidery machine. Okay, I've loaded the design into the machine, and here's what it looks like. I'll go to set. Okay, so now what I have done is I've just loaded the stabilizer in here. Normally I would use white thread. I have in the needle, I have white thread in the bobbin, and it usually calls right now for white thread in the needle, but I'm going to use this light blue so you can sort of see what's going on. Lower my presser foot, and off we go. And it's just going to give you the outline for placement of the batting. I'm going to take my batting and cover all of the stitching like that. Okay, and I'm going to run the second color stop, which is going to give me the outline of the batting and the placement for the first piece of blue fabric, which is going to be the background. Now before I go to put my background fabric on, I'm going to take the hoop sort of out of the machine, and I'm going to trim all the way around on the batting. It's not crucial that you do this, however, this will reduce the bulk in the seams when we put our mug rug together. So I'm just going to go ahead and stitch this. It helps to have a nice curved pair of embroidery scissors, nice and sharp. It does help to take this out of the machine and trim it on a table, just because you have better access to it. So I will be back. Okay, so here I've trimmed it nice and close. And now I'm going to put the background fabric piece on. This is the 5 by 5.5 inch piece. I want it to cover the two sides and the top by at least 1/4 inch. 1/2 inch would be better. And now I'm going to tack down this piece. Now the only part I'm going to trim here, I'm going to leave the margins or the seam allowances on the sides and the top. I'm just going to trim the bottom edge, or be the left edge if you're in this orientation of the design. Okay. I'm going to place my grass fabric right at the edge of the fabric here. This is the placement. I'm going to place it, make sure that it's sticking over by about a 1/2 inch, 1/4 to 1/2 inch on the side, and I'm putting my fabric right sides together, and I'm going to sew this seam. So this is going to seam the grass at the bottom. And I'm going to flip this over, finger press it down, and now it's going to stitch, it's going to seal down the other two sides. You do not need to trim anything at this time. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is put the grass green thread in my needle, and I will stitch color stop number 6, and it's going to fill in the edges for the grass. Okay, this is going to take a while to stitch, so what I'm going to do is I will stitch this off camera and I will be right back as soon as it's done stitching. Okay, it has stitched like the tree line or the grass, whatever you want to call it. The next thing I'm going to do is put in the leaf green, the lighter green for the stems, and that's going to be color stop number 7. And it's stitching the stems to the tulips. So I will be back when it's done stitching the stems. Okay, it's stitched all 3 of the stems for the tulips, and now we need to do the leaves. So it's the color stop number 8 is going to show you the positioning for leaves for the tulips 1 and 3 using the same green thread. Okay, color stop number 9 is going to be the placement for the 2 leaves. So it's hard to see the stitching, but the stitching ends right here. You want to make sure you cover everything and then do the placement for 2 sets of leaves. Okay, I'm going to remove the hoop from the machine, but I'm not going to take the fabric out of the hoop, and I'm just going to go to the table and trim away the outside edges of the leaves. Okay, we've trimmed away the excess, and next is color stop number 10, and it's going to give you the placement for the center set of leaves. The next color stop is going to be the tack down. I have my 2 by 2 inch piece of leaf fabric, and you can use the same one or a different one. It's up to you. So I'm going to use the same one. Put that down and tack that in place. Okay, and once again, I'm going to go ahead and remove the hoop from the machine and trim off that 3rd set of leaves. Color stop number 12 is going to do the sealing stitch or the satin stitch around all of the tulip leaves. And again, this will take a little while, so I will go ahead and let this stitch off camera, and I will be back. Okay, we've sealed in these leaves. How cute. Okay, the next thing is the placement for the tulip number 1, which is that yellow tulip. So color stop number 13 is the placement, and I've put yellow thread in the needle. Okay, here's the placement. Now I'm going to just show you a trick to have this stay nice and straight without having to fuse it down. The only time I use a fusible for an applique is if the whole piece is bigger than 2 inches by 2 inches. And that's only because when you wash it, it tends to ripple. But here's a trick that if you don't want to use a fusible, which can gum up your needle, just put a little bit of Elmer's washable school glue just inside of the stitching line. Place this on top. Take your iron, and my iron is not hot. So this one fits right inside, and just press it down. Actually, it is hot, so I'm not going to put it on the machine. I would take this off and do it on a flat table. Don't ever put an iron near your machine. Okay, so next is the tack down. And that is stitch number 14. This is the tack down for the yellow. Because I have a camera, I'm going to take this off the table. Usually I just slide it out and then just reach in here and cut it. But I can't do that without obstructing your view. So I'm going to take this off, put it on the table. And it's also got some inside edges, and I want to get nice and close to those. So it's best to do that on a table. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, I've trimmed it away, and now I'm just going to do color stop number 15 in order to seal in the edges of the yellow applique. Okay, now I have put pink into the needle, and I'm going to be stitching the placement for the tulip on the right side, or tulip number, also called tulip number 2. Lay it on the top and stitch the tack down. Now I'm going to trim this piece, and then we'll seal in the pink. Okay, it's all trimmed away, and now I'm going to stitch the sealing stitch or the satin stitch around the pink tulip. Okay, you get the idea. I'm going to go ahead and finish stitching this off camera. You don't need to take your time up by just watching me stitch. Now I'm going to do the outline for the last tulip, which I have threaded the needle with red. Again, cover up all of the stitching with the red fabric, and now the red tack down. Okay, I'm going to trim away the excess fabric, and I'll be right back. So I have put harvest gold thread in the needle, and now we're going to start working on the bee. Okay, this will take a few minutes to stitch out, so I will be back. Okay, we stitched out the body of the bee, and now I'm going to put black into the needle, and we're going to stitch color stop number 23, which is going to add the stripes to the bee's body. Okay. And once again, I will go ahead and stitch this off camera because it takes a little while. Okay, we finished the body of the bee. There's a couple of little jump stitches that aren't going to be caught by your machine because they're too close, so you might have to go in and cut those. The next thing is the placement for the bee's wings. Okay, I threaded the needle with the gray, and now I'm going to do the placement for the wings. Okay, the wings are made up of 3 layers. You've got my gray. Although if you want them to be completely translucent and see the blue through it, you can. So you've got the gray. You've got your piece of mylar to give it a little sparkle. And the 3rd layer is going to be my tooling, black tooling or white tooling, whatever color you like. I'm going to use the black. Now I'm going to remove this from the hoop, and I'm going to trim around all the layers, and I will be back. All right, and for the last piece of the applique, we're going to go ahead and stitch the gray to give me a satin stitch around the wings. We finished with the applique, so now I can go ahead and trim this right edge. So I'm just going to, I don't want to go too far, but I'm going to just trim it away from the stitching. Just hold it up. This does not have to be exact. I'm just trimming that one side down. I'm going to put this back into the machine, and I'm going to put the pocket first. So I want, this is the right side of my pocket, so I decide where I want the placement of that pocket. Yeah, that should be about right. You can put it as high or as low as you like. I'm going to maybe just a little lower. And I'm just putting this edge even with that part we just cut off. You want your 3.5 by 6 inch piece. It could be bigger. I think I went 6.5 inches and a little bit bigger because I just happen to have it. And I'm going to stitch the seam. I'm using the same gray thread, but you could switch to white at this point. All right, I'm going to open this up. I'm going to finger press first this part, and then I'll bring the pocket over and finger press that down. You could press it with the iron. I can feel through here my edge of my stitching is right, edge of my batting is right here. So that's ready to go back in. And now I'm just going to hold this back and I'm going to stitch the outline all the way around. Right here, if you're worried about that flipping, you could either tape it down or just hold your finger on the button and it's going to go nice and slow. Okay, we're good. We cleared it. Okay, now the last step is to take your fabric and you want to put this sort of in the middle. Make sure it overlaps by about a ½ inch or a ¼ inch or so. You have that along the edge. I'm putting right sides, it doesn't matter, right sides together. Just be mindful if you have directional fabric. I do not. And I want the folds towards the center. Does not matter which one goes on the top. Okay, it's covering all of the stitching. I've got the center overlapped by about an inch, and now I'm ready to stitch. Okay, that's going to be fine. I'm not worried about it catching. It's doing a triple stitch, so this will be a nice secure seam. I'll stop when I come to this inside edge because I don't want it to flip over. Stop before I get to it. And now as I go to approach it, I can put my fingers a little close and raise that up because it wants to flip. Now, if it's wanting to flip too bad, and raise that up, then you can put a piece of tape here. But I'm not going to. I'm just going to live dangerously, and we'll hold this in until the foot clears the fold, and it did. Okay, we're good. You could tape this down. I really saved on tape. After I learned that little trick that holding the button in puts it on a walking stitch, a slow walk. We are finished. Remove the fabric from the hoop. I'm going to remove probably the big pieces of stabilizer. And it's because it's a tearaway, or you could just leave it. It really doesn't matter. It'll come out. This is a rinse away tearaway. It'll come out in the wash. Or most of it'll come out in the wash. I like using a tearaway because it keeps that bulkiness out of the seams. You're going to trim all the way around, 1/4 inch, miter your corners. Sometimes I will double cut those to make those points nice and sharp. Okay, another place I like to trim is wherever I have fabric overlapping. I'll just take that and clip that out. Where else does this happen? Happens here on the grass. Turn it over, it happens here. I could have done better at straightening that out. And I believe that's all I need to do. And then turn it right sides out. I'm going to use my point turner to poke out the corners really good. Let me go ahead and give it a press. You can close the backing if you want to. It's not necessary. You could put some steam-a-seam in there or some kind of fusible web to seal it in if you want to seal it in. Otherwise, you're fine. You don't have to take it out. It'll stay nice and neat. Okay, let me go ahead and press this. Okay, it's finished. There's one little thing I need to do. I need to cut my jump stitches between the eyes. It's very tiny. It is not absolutely necessary. And also between the eye and one of the antenna. I have this little tool called a side hopper jump stitch scissor. These are specifically designed to cut jump stitches. The points are super tiny and super narrow, and it makes it very easy to get in here to lift one side and then the other, and you can get in really into tiny, tight places. Okay, I love these little scissors. They're not cheap little scissors, but guard them with your life and keep them away from kids or husbands who really like to cut wire with your Ginger scissors. It only happened once. Okay, here it is finished. This turned out really cute. I hope you enjoyed this. If you want a copy of this design, send an email request to me at waltzquilt@yahoo.com, and also contact me if you have any questions or comments. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and of course comment. Until next month, see you later. Bye.